Hi, my name is Charles Barnard. As you understand, I'm a business coach with Exit Alliance, and our focus is on developing ownership, transition, exit strategies, and facilitating the implementation thereof. So the question has to be, what do I deliver in this whole process? And I think that first of all, it's peace of mind. It's enabling the business owner to know that they've addressed risks, they've addressed their future, and it's a sense of knowing that, yeah, things are in place. I also deliver a sense of security because people know what they're getting, they know what is happening, and people just feel a lot better with it. And of course, with that is the trust that is necessary to make all of this happen. So I know that I deliver these three elements, but most of all, I deliver the results that are necessary to make this happen. So how do I do it? Well, I believe that it's actually a combination of the approach that I use, which is really bespoke. And then, of course, we all have a set of tools, and I have a very specific toolbox that I know how to use and can apply very strategically and as appropriate. So let's just talk a little bit about the approach. When we look at things, if we look at the left-hand axis, we have issues where that need resolution very quickly, and you just need the results happening. And sometimes you don't need transfer of skills to other people, and that's when you start taking a look at this area where you're really catching that fish, making it happen, ensuring that the person gets the results that they need today or as agreed. Then there's another part where you're actually acting as an instructor, where you're teaching people about your process and what is happening. And as an instructor, you probably aren't that worried about the specific results that have to happen in the short term, but you are concerned about transferring skills. And then, of course, when you start taking a look at some of the other areas, perhaps the best area is working as a collaborator, where you're both working to get the results. The results are absolutely important, and there's a huge transfer of skills because you're coaching, you're teaching, you're actually helping people work and develop what they need. So, but most of all, every assignment requires a slightly different approach, and the most important part of this is to make sure that it's an agreed approach, and then that's what I focus on. When we start taking a look at the toolbox, there are a lot of toolbox, and these are typical of what I try to achieve. So, obviously, exit planning, where I have succession exit plans, and it comes everything. It's really the Rolls-Royce service where you look at a specific process, which is a 7-step process where we look at everything from the business owner's core value system and change readiness and need for change and change adaptability through to their personal finances, through to the issues within the business, and finally what their desires are for the end of the process and how we can actually achieve that. We certainly look at creating a heat map, which shows where the issues are and the relative importance and what needs to be addressed first. And it's a very good prioritization process. And after having done all that, we come to the implementation, and that's where I act as a project manager and put together an exit team which comprises of the accountant, might comprise of a merger and acquisitions person, a lawyer, and usually a financial planner. But there is certainly a team that we put together to make certain that things happen. Sometimes it might include a coach or life insurance risk. Those are things that are necessary. And then finally, we look at things like the data vault, where we actually collect data. One of the things when you do a due diligence is being able to access information. And very often we find that, the business owner thinks, oh no, that's something that the accountant has. And the accountant never had it. And where is it? And so that's what we go and do and make sure that everything's in place. That's also part of our due diligence and stress test that we do. So as I say, it covers everything. But when we also get into it, taking a look at actually looking at the blind spots and the business value uplift. And one of the things, without a doubt, is that you need to focus on your cash management. And no business is immune. There's always something that can be done to improve cash. And the reason that we do this is because that cash flow makes everything else possible. I also do business plans, and we have different types of business plans. So there's a standard strategy plan where you look at the vision, mission, and do the SWOT analysis and look at the competitive process and put it all in place, and that is pretty useful and pretty good. And then there's also the funding plans, which, whether it's bank or an equity, each is required to address slightly different aspects, but much the same. So if we take a look at the word bank, banks like looking at it, and they perhaps the summation is the word passes, where they look at the person, they look at the amount, they look at the risks that are associated with it, they look at the security. Sometimes there's an element of expediency because a bank might not want to expose themselves to that area, whereas others might. There's a remuneration that is there, which covers the servicing, and then of course there's the services themselves. Can they actually sell you something else? Because there's no question that that's what they want to do. So you structure a funding business plan that way. And then the equity plans, where you're actually looking at trying to get a joint venture partner or an equity player, and they look at something very similar but different. They look at the management team, they look at the opportunity, they look at the valuations, they look at the exit strategy for themselves, and of course the return on investment. So and you structure it differently. The problem with all of those strategies, that is that they very often they get done, they're used for one place, and then they very seldom get updated and often find themselves in the bottom of the drawer, the thick document at the bottom of the drawer. Which is why I like focusing on the operating plans. And operating plans are without a doubt where magic happens, and it's part of what I like doing. So I'm a keen follower of Vern Harnish, and he has a one-page strategy plan, and I feel that using that system is one of the keys to tying strategy to action. An incredible process and really worthwhile doing. So let's talk about that one-page business plan. This is an example, and this fits onto one A3 page or two A4 sides. So what I do with this? Well, first of all, this business plan, one-page business plan, carries a very brief synopsis of the business. So you're taking a look at who you are, who your major customers are, your shareholders, what services you make, sell, and obviously the record keeping that is necessary. So that's a synopsis of your business, and it's equivalent in many ways to the executive summary that you might see in a one-page plan, in a normal business plan. We certainly have an opportunity to look at things like the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of the business, and that's the standard SWOT analysis. But it's all relevant to the business and relevant to the plan that you're putting in place there. So yes, it might just be a couple of bullet points, but those are the key ones that you need to look at that you record there. When you take a look at the value system, it's the culture of your business. So how do you improve the culture? What do you need to make things happen? So I truly believe that without this, you often wonder what is happening about my business. How is this going to happen? How does this translate? But this is where you actually define what gets people promoted, what gets people recognized, or alternatively, what gets them fired if they could transgress those. Why? It all begins with why. What is the real reason that you're doing, and why are you doing this? That's just an incredible place to be. You have to have it in place. Without it, you often wonder, and it becomes a purposeless business, and that means that you just move from session to session without really growing the business. When you start taking a look at the targets, and you'll see that there are actually three elements to this. So these are all business elements, and it's the targets of between 3 and 5 years. It's the goals for 1 year, and it's the actions for the quarter. But over and above this, you look at under the 1, 3 to 5 year targets, you look at what your key thrusts and capabilities are. In the 1 year goals, you've got some key initiatives that you do. And then in the 90-day section, you're actually looking at some very, very specific quarterly priorities that you have to achieve. So you actually look at what your KPIs are, who you do, what has to happen, and you identify the key things that you have to happen, 5 key things, and you identify which is the 1 month, the topmost activity that you actually have to put in place for that. Then you start taking a look at a little bit of an overlap, but that's previously what we've been discussing has been on a corporate level, and now we're starting to get to an individual level. So whilst we start off with the 90-day focus at a corporate level, we certainly move to an individual's accountability. So the idea is that whilst I set a 1-day plan, it's 1 page per individual. So if you have 5 key managers, you have 5 pages that would have the first set of columns all exactly the same, but the last column would be individualized for that individual person, because then they would be able to take a look at what they have to do over the next 90 days, what their key priorities are. You also have a little bit of a theme and a dashboard, and you'd have a celebration of what you need to do. So that's, and then of course, because this is a 90-day focus, it means that in 3 months' time you're revisiting this. Over and above this, you actually have this in front of you, and you know exactly what you have to do. And then the final section is where I really believe things truly happen, is where you're actually looking at what the critical measurements are. What do you have to have in place? What is your profit per whatever unit that you're looking at? What is your brand promise? What is the big, hairy, audacious goal that you're going through to? What is the critical brand promises that you're looking at? All of these things actually give you an idea of where you need to focus, what you need to build. And then you start taking a look at the critical numbers that are there. So what is really good, what is really bad. You look at people and you're looking at process on a 1 year, 90-day, and an individualized level. So, and when you start looking at that and you're driving accountability inside there, and you're actually measuring this and you're using this as your agenda for driving a management meeting, that's where truly your management magic happens. So, if you could help me, my ideal clients are those with financial blind spots, which are profitable and or growing, but they're cash poor businesses. I also have people who really want to grow their businesses, and those are business plans. And in many ways, these are interchangeable, because you're actually looking at people with business plans need their financial blind spots to be opened up and identified. And people with financial blind spots are often those that don't have business plans in place. So you start taking a look at what needs to happen in that area. And then, of course, my gold standard is an exit plan, which covers everything. And I suppose I've got that's my target market: baby boomer business owners, 5 or more employees, and entrepreneurs with defined timetables. So, in summary, I'll undertake projects that directly affect my clients' future profitability and cash flow, as measured by quarterly results and agreed outcomes. So, if you know anybody that will benefit from any of these approaches, refer them to us, and everybody